Now that is how a sequel is done. Over 15 years later, Psychonauts finally got the sequel that it deserved, and it lives up to the first game. It's actually kind of hard for me to say definitively which one that I like more, since I think that each one is stronger in specific ways. I'm going to go into detail why I love this game so goddamn much, and how it very well may be my game of the year. There are 3 quick things to note. First of all, this will have some spoilers as I want to tackle the game pretty hard, but I know many haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, so I want to leave out the big twists, because there are a lot in here. Second, I don't have nostalgia for this franchise whatsoever. I gave this franchise a chance about a month ago, and I am so glad I did. The final quick thing I wanted to mention is that I played this on my Xbox Series X. Right off the bat, people are going to ask, will I need to play the original? The answer here is no, but my answer, if you have the times and funds for it, please do. The original is still a phenomenal game in its own right and deserves to be played. It is also available on every modern device besides the Switch, and it's dirt cheap. However, Double Fine realized that not everyone is going to want to play a 15-year-old 3D platformer and a weird VR spin-off, so the game has a cute little cutscene titled, Previously on Psychonauts. Pretty fitting. This cutscene will tell the player what happened in the original game, as well as that VR spin-off, Rhombus of Ruin. I'll tackle it briefly. A boy named Rasputin Aquato was raised in a circus family. At the ripe age of 10 years old, he decided to run away in pursuit of becoming a psychonaut. He was raised to hate psychics and fortune tellers because they have placed a curse on his family that disables all of them from swimming. A stranger hands Raz a brochure to use his psychic abilities at a place called Whispering Rock, which is a training camp for kids that want to become psychonauts. Agent Sasha 9, Mio Vidello, and Ford Cruller taught Raz several psychic abilities, such as pyrokinesis, telekinesis, and levitation. Raz eventually trumps Coach Oleander's plan of stealing all the campers' brains, and Ford Cruller declares Raz a psychonaut. As this was happening, though, word came through that Truman Zanotto was kidnapped, who happens to be Lily's father, who happens to be Rasputin's girlfriend.
Although the term is still very fresh and might need fact-checking before we go to print.
That is where the original Psychonauts ends and the VR title Rhombus of Ruin begins. The Psychonauts decide to take Rasputin with them to save Truman Zanotto because he showed off his great capabilities by stopping Coach Oleander. Dr. Lobato was hiding Truman in an underwater lair known as the Rhombus of Ruin. They rescued Truman, but he had Cyrelium poisoning, meaning that he couldn't reveal what happened to him exactly. Basically, just think of it like as a coma. They knew that Lobato wasn't working alone, but they couldn't get any further information from him, so they took Lobato aboard with them as they left the Rhombus of Ruin. I never got to play this one. Here's to hoping that I eventually have enough room to set up that damn Valve Index that I bought over 6 months ago and I haven't even touched yet. Now that finally brings us to where Psychonauts 2 begins. On their way to the Psychonauts headquarters, Raz enters the mind of Dr. Lobato to see if they can get intel. But ultimately, it is futile. Raz and the crew arrive at the Mother Lobe, which is the Psychonauts headquarters. Raz can't wait to go on missions with the Psychonauts! Except that doesn't happen. He gets thrown into the Psychonauts intern program by Hollis, who says that Ford Cruller doesn't have the authority to accept Psychonauts anymore. She also gives Raz his mentor, which is a guy named Nick Johnson who runs the mailroom. Needless to say, Raz is disappointed with the arrangement. The other interns don't exactly warm up to Raz at first. This is made evident by the fact that they steal his clothes and lock him in the closet. Being the crafty kid that he is, Raz finds an escape route. Luckily for him, he runs into Sasha first, who gives Raz a new set of clothes and has taken Dr. Lobato. Raz and the other interns then hear about the casino mission that they can't attend. Their teacher, Hollis, tells them that it's far too dangerous for interns. Raz decides to be a little shithead and try to change Hollis' mind with a new ability called Mental Connection. I guess to be fair, the other interns were persuading him to do it. Let's just say things go down pretty poorly because of his actions. Hollis eventually lets the interns go on the mission with her, and all of them lend a helping hand. While investigating, Rasputin finds a picture of Lily and decides to take it back with him to the Mother Lobe. Raz finds Lily standing by her unconscious father. She gets really upset when Raz shows her the intel that he had found. This commotion wakes up Truman, who tells Raz to find Ford Cruller and not tell anybody that he is conscious. Recalling that Ford can help Raz with just a flash of bacon, Raz heads to the cafeteria to get a piece. Unfortunately for him, the only piece was on the floor. This piece was originally going to be given to the lunch lady's ferrets, but she instead gives it to Raz. Raz shakes the bacon, and General Ford climbs out of Rasputin's head. If one can recall from the first game, Ford Cruller was handicapped brutally from a psychic battle many years ago and doesn't act like himself unless he is in one spot. That spot is his lab at Whispering Rock. Raz tells Truman that Ford Cruller is in the Mother Lobe now, but he may not quite be normal. Truman tells Rasputin to enter Ford's mind and clean up what's going on in there. Rasputin can find Ford's 3 alter egos, one in the bowling alley, one in the barbershop, and the last one in the mailroom. Raz has to enter each one of the alter egos' minds to make Ford normal again. But I actually think I should stop the story here. This doesn't give away too many spoilers, as this all happens pretty early in the game. But beyond this part, there are so many damn twists and turns. This will be way more satisfying to find out playing the game itself, rather than having some guy on the internet talk about it. I just wanted to set up the scene. So enough about the great story. Let's get into the gameplay. Psychonauts 2 is a 3D platformer that have the player take control of Rasputin. Since he grew up as an acrobat, Raz can perform lots of cool moves. Rasputin also has the ability to hop into people's minds, where there will be platforming challenges. He's given a mix of new and old psychic powers in the game, which I think is great. Double Fine apparently saw which powers were the best ones and kept them in. Confusion Bomb, Invisibility, and Shield don't return, but instead we get Mental Connection, Projection, and Time Bubble. But before getting into the newer powers, I want to tackle the returning ones real quick, because they have all been retooled at least a little bit. Actually, before even jumping into the powers, it's worth noting that the upgrading system is different, and in my opinion, better than the original. You see, in the original, as Rasputin's Psych Cadet rank goes up, predetermined upgrades would be unlocked. The upgrades were neat, but say one level you unlock a Confusion Grenade power-up, and you never use the Confusion Grenade. That upgrade is pretty pointless, and it feels like you didn't actually get an award from that level up. In Psychonauts 2, the Intern rank stars can be used in any way one likes. One is in love with levitation, they can buy upgrades for it first, such as being able to jump higher and having that wrecking ball effect that was in the original. I like this system more because I would max out psychic abilities that I adore, like Mental Connection, Pyrokinesis, and Levitation first. Levitation is still probably the best power in the game because it still makes Raz move faster. He isn't quite as floaty as in the original game, and he doesn't jump nearly as high. He also can't float infinitely in this game, as when holding onto the levitation effect above his head, it imitates a balloon that is losing air until it eventually pops. As mentioned before, after buying the associated upgrade, the levitation ability can go pretty high, but it still doesn't quite feel as good as the original, though let's be honest here. Levitation was simply overpowered in the original. One could easily skip portions of the game with levitation in the original. I mean, I kinda like that for replay runs, but it still doesn't seem like it's good game design to me. I love running into characters with the wrecking ball effect too. Oh, it's so much fun.
Ow! And down!
Pyrokinesis now is an area of effect, which can get huge with some of the upgrades. It went from, I'll never use this in combat, to being a part of my typical combat moveset. It can also be used to break nearby items, which becomes super useful with that large AoE. It does nice damage to enemies as well and destroy goop on the floor left behind by doubts. It can also be used to light candles and destroy paintings that may have either collectibles or a new route behind them. Overall, I really like that this has been retooled. It is now way more useful and I chuck it into one of my power slots way more often now. I'll talk about Telekinesis next, which is now more streamlined and useful. Remember how in the first game Raz couldn't move while holding something? Well, in Psychonauts 2, it has given him the ability to run around while holding an object, which makes this move so much better. It is also way more fun to use in combat. There's an achievement for picking up a judge's gavel and throwing it back at it. There's also another achievement for taking a weight from a regret and tossing it at a different enemy. Yes, the power still consists of picking things up and throwing them, but I'd argue between being able to move while using it and the devs finding a way to fit it into combat better, I enjoy the psychic power a lot more than I did in the original. Now we have Clairvoyance, which works similarly to it did in the first game. In fact, this one is almost identical. However, the devs even found a way to put this one into combat, and I was not expecting that. There are these enemies called Bad Moods. They will go apeshit on Raz. After going apeshit, they have a cooldown period. Raz can use Clairvoyance on them. This can be used to find their weakness, which I think is so cool. Raz can also use this on specific animals and find Titanium. It is so great fun seeing how people and animals view Raz. Cyblast is a last returning power, but this time Raz can only shoot 3 or 4 at a time. There's also no ammo to speak of. There will be a cooldown window at the bottom left or right of the screen. A power-up also exists for it that will enable Raz to power up his shots. It's still a nice, reliable move that can be used at a distance. Other than that, it works pretty similarly to how it did in the original. But now we get into the new stuff. I'll start off with the weakest one, and that is Projection. This will have Raz create a paper-thin buddy of himself. This guy can get through tight cracks and pull levers while Raz can move around freely. The ability is fine, I guess, but it's just my least favorite, mostly because this just isn't that useful overall. It can be used in battle to distract the enemies around it, but I'd rather just attack them myself. It also won't shut the hell up. It keeps saying shit in an annoyingly high-pitched voice. I like when allies follow the main character around in games, like Pokemon in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, or the Pikmin in the Pikmin franchise. But this guy is too damn annoying. I only have it in one of my side slots, or I have to get by a gate. But basically, as soon as that puzzle is solved, I chuck it for a new move in that slot instead. Another new ability is the Mental Connection ability, which will allow Raz to travel through thought bubbles. When upgraded, Raz can travel through dark thoughts as well. This can be used to solve fun puzzles, like trying to match up thoughts in Hollis' mind. Raz may have helped her adopt a gambling problem. These can also lead to places that are too high for Raz to scale normally. This can also be used to have Raz grapple onto enemies in combat. I like this new move personally. It's fun just to let her rip and hear that pitch get higher and higher with each consecutive bubble. The last new ability, as well as the last ability overall, is the Time Bubble ability, which will, wait for it, slow down time! Or against certain objects. This will let Raz slow down fans so we can get behind them, slow down moving platforms so he can jump on them easier. But it shines the most in combat in my opinion. It slows down the enemies so that Raz can get them with a few quick shots, or just improve his placement. It only affects a single target at first, but one of the upgrades will increase its AoE, which is very useful. On top of all these powers, Raz still has his handy Psy Melee, as well as his Ground Pound. This plays very nicely into going over the combat for the game. The combat has been improved significantly in my opinion. In the original Psychonauts, it was just kinda there. There wasn't really anything wrong with it per se, but just in general, it just seemed like something that the player can do when going from point A to point B. There wasn't too much thinking or strategy involved. It really could all boil down to punch if close, Cyblast if far away. There are a good couple of different enemies in this game with different abilities and weaknesses. The names are too damn clever as well. Panic attacks, doubts, regrets, enabler, bad moods, judgment. Just brilliant, I say. Try beating a panic attack without Time Bubble, or several doubts without Pyrokinesis, or regrets without either Cyblast or Telekinesis. I found that if you try the toddler method or just running in there and side punching everything, you'll probably end up dying. That or I'm just horrible at the game. Mixing up the powers is great fun, and most of them have their uses in combat, even ones that seem like they wouldn't have a use. Take Metal Connection, for example. This can be used to have Raz grapple an enemy and attack them. This can be very helpful for logistical reasons. Speaking of logistical reasons, I still have Levitation equipped for a good amount of fights because it can be a great way to get out of a corner quickly. The Wrecking Ball upgrade is also a nice get off of my ass move. Time Bubble may be my favorite in combat, as slowing down the enemy can give Raz a huge advantage, who can get the huge AoE on Pyrokinesis. This can be helpful when Raz is swarmed. Throwing objects at an enemy using Telekinesis is also a lot of fun, and of course, Cyblast is still as nice as always. The combat may not be this incredible thing that everyone needs to experience, but I would at least say that it's pretty damn solid, which is a huge improvement over the original and most other 3D platformers for that matter. If one is as bad at the game as I am, they can buy helpful things for autos such as Psy Pops, which will restore health, and Dream Fluffs, which will help automatically restore Rasputin's health when he gets knocked out. The store is called the Automatic. Man, what a great name. The items here can be bought with the Titanium, which Raz can find around the world. You can get it by either defeating enemies, digging them up from the earth, or destroying items. This more or less replaces the cabin shop for the first game, and it is a huge improvement. The player can make site challenge markers here, which come back for the first game, more or less untouched. When collected on the overworld, or created by combining a Psy Core and 9 Psy cards, the player's Intern rank will increase by 1. Auto will also sell the player pins. This is a neat idea, but part of me wishes that it was executed a bit better. Pins are items that Raz can equip to make him unlock certain actions, power up abilities, or help with other things. For example, a Telekinesis one has Raz pick up a chunk out of the ground to attack enemies if there are no holdable items nearby. One of the Cyblast ones let Raz do more damage to sensors. Some pins are just for fun, like some of them change the Levitation ball color. One of them has Raz break out into a dance so the player doesn't touch the mouse, controller, or keyboard. Then of course there's always petting the animals with Telekinesis. However, here's my problem with these. Unfortunately, when I get into a game like this, I try to think of the most efficient way to get that sweet 100%. So as a result, I mainly kept these 3 on. The one that drops double Titanium, the one that gives me a discount when shopping at the Automatic, and the green Levitation Ball one. I think that the orange one is kind of ugly, okay? As a result, I didn't really mix and match all too much. I played with a couple of other ones, sure. Like I put on the one that makes the damn projection shut the hell up, but I wish that there was a way to unlock more pin slots, because as it stands, I really only use 6 or 7 at the absolute most. Man, the Automatic is great. These are sprinkled throughout the hub world. Speaking of the hub world, it's pretty damn good in this game. Since I have no self-control, I'm playing through the original Psychonauts on PC again. I say that because I think it comes up just short of Whispering Rock. The Mother Lobe itself is pretty alright. There are numerous different rooms such as the mailroom, the cafeteria, the Psychonauts headquarters, among other places. Overall, it is just okay, but I was hoping that the hub world was going to be a bit more than this. But then, oh boy, but then it happened. The hub world expands massively at some point in the game. My favorite area has to be the questionable area. It brings back those Whispering Rock vibes pretty hard. There's so many collectibles tucked away in here. There are tree branches to swing off of, springy plants to jump on, animals to use Clairvoyance on, fires to ride with levitation. Just exploring the world here is so much fun. I love the funicular that Raz just loves to comment on.
Gotta put a little more fun in that funicular. That pun is just one of the things I love about funiculars.
I love using Time Bubble on these logs to ride up the waterfall. This is also where Raz's family resides, and I'm so happy that they are in the game. They bring so much personality with them. I also really enjoy the fact that all the signs have question marks on them. Exploring this place is just pure fun, damn it.
Okay, I'm going to go practice my acrobatics.
Uh-huh. Remember, every time you lie, it takes a day off your mother's life.
The Quarry is the space in between and holds the hub worlds together. It is also home to Otto's lab. He will give Raz a machine called the Thought Detector. This machine can be used only in the overworld and will spot hidden mental connections that Raz can abuse to find collectibles. There is also an Orbo that Raz can hitch a ride on. While doing so, he'll talk about his damn ore badge that he earned back at Whispering Rock. Like the questionable area, this portion of the hub world is very fun to explore and is pretty dense with all of its collectibles.
Well, I ought to let you get back to work.
Very, very humorous.
The Green Eater Gulch is the last section of the hub world that is unlocked. It is home to old psycho-isolation chambers, bees, and vines. I don't want to touch this one too much, because this opens up pretty late in the game. Luckily, the game has a pretty robust fast-traveling system that connects all the different sections of the hub world, and it's given to Raz by Lily. Aw, how cute.
Tell anybody you got it from me, and you're dead. Bye!
The Scavenger Hunt also returns. There are 16 items that are spread across the many parts of the hub world. These are great fun, but man, some of these are just hard to find. I may have had to Google one or two of these. One of them is the astronaut ice cream, which I really would have thought would been in the cafeteria, but no, it involves Raz playing with computers that have green screens. That one really caught me off guard. I guess a slight spoiler is coming up. If one completes the Scavenger Hunt, that bitch Norma gives Raz his Whispering Rock clothes back. One can change their costume using the bathroom. It's a nice nostalgic throwback, but I was hoping for something more. Maybe I'm just a whiny bitch. I love how there are also optional objectives. In the original, there was really just a scavenger hunt, talking to the campers, and then the main objective. These were great fun, of course, but there wasn't really any side objectives. In Psychonauts 2, though, Raz can do tasks for a couple of his friends and family members. Like Lily needs Raz to grab a certain type of fungus from the questionable area. Rasputin's mother wants Raz to find Queepy's multiple hiding spots and drag him back to the caravan. Jisoo asks Raz to help him find and vent all the psycho-seismometers. These will throw Raz into large combat arenas. It's nice to be given additional objectives to go after. Before we head into the mental worlds, I should probably slow down and go over what collectibles that the player can expect in these. The Figments of Imagination return, and their function is more or less the same. When 100 are collected, the player's Psychonaut Intern level will increase by 1. In the original Psychonauts, Figments could be worth up to 7 points or so, but in Psychonauts 2, every Figment is worth only 1 point. So these were much better in the first game. These are nice 2D drawings that are spread throughout the level. They tie into the theme of each level so brilliantly. Emotional baggage also returns and is retooled slightly. Each bag still needs its respective tag. When all are collected in a world, Raz gains an intern rank. They are still crying, which can be heard in the distance. I think that these are still an incredible collectible, though the music tune that plays when they are collected is different. This is a shame because I adore the original tune. This one is shorter and mostly similar, so it's not the end of the world. A new collectible is the Nugget of Wisdom. These are found in the minds of people who increase the player's intern rank level by 1. The neat thing about these is the fact that the collectible itself will change depending on the mind that they're in. For example, in Ford's mind, it'll be a golden piece of bacon. In the Psy King level, they are golden microphones. In Bob's mind, they'll be golden watering cans. In Compton's mind, they will be golden whisks. These are just so goddamn brilliant, and again, play into the theme of the game so well. How do they come up with this stuff? The memory vaults also return, which is amazing. I think the first game's memories were a bit better and overall more brutal, but I'm still happy to see that they made a return. I'm sad to report, though, that the mental cobwebs, they don't return. They are gone. These are always fun to suck up with that damn cobweb duster. Lastly, there are half-a-minds. When 2 of these are collected, Raz will get an extra 4 hit points, or 1 brain. The first mental world is Lobato's world, and it's very strong note to start on. Right away, Psychonauts 2 gets super weird. Izzy is a dentist. A lot of this level is just filled with gums, tongues, and teeth. There is this cool rolling section that has teeth that crumple right underneath Raz. This world is just so visually weird and memorable. It is the first level in the game, however, so it's pretty dang short. The first time here is really fun because it starts off with the Psychonauts giving Lobato the Employee of the Year award. The next mental world is Hollis' classroom. This is where Raz learns mental connection. After learning this power, the class tries to persuade Raz to change Hollis' mind about the casino mission. After connecting these thoughts, the world transforms into Hollis' hot streak. This world is a giant vault where each door connects to another place on the level. This includes neat moments like running the race in place of the heart, helping the couple win a baby, and the pinball-like section where Raz needs to get a pill into the heart. Visually, this level is super diverse and appealing. I'm a fan! I also like seeing how Rasputin's actions not only change Hollis' mind so severely, but also how it changes the game and level design. This level starts out pretty tame, but it gets pretty damn bonkers by the end. Oh yeah, the boss battle at the end? That's pretty neat too. Compton's Cook-Off is good fun too. It has Raz compete against the clock in a cooking challenge. Raz will have to pick up the audience members and chop them up, and cook them alive. Man, that's brutal. The moment where the pig is chopping his family member, that made me giggle a bit.
This is weird.
Grandpa Mervin!
Petey? Is that you? Oh no, it's just it's left of mine. That wasn't so bad.
This level had me a bit frustrated though. Sometimes the item that I was doing kinesis on would get stuck behind something, so Raz would drop it, and I'd have to start that item again. This would be fine if this didn't happen 3 separate goddamn times. It also has a pretty fun boss battle. I like the variety here, as it's really different from the rest of the levels. Up next is the Ford Trio. The first one is Strike City, which has Raz running on top of a giant bowling ball so he can enter giant lanes. If he tries to step on one without the giant bowling ball, he will get yelled at and will get teleported to a different part of the level. I love squishing these damn germ things. Another thing that I found pretty funny was the fact that the act of polishing the bowling balls makes the machinery move. The next part of Ford's mind is a land that is made out of hair and hair products. There are these annoying tick things that Raz can blow away with this giant hair dryer. The third part of Ford's mind is letters that are flying around. There's also a typewriter that Raz must find the missing keys. The theme of these 3 worlds are all so neat. However, these are basically 3 mini-worlds that together make a normal-sized mental world. There's also the Tomb of Sarcophagus, which is the final piece of Ford's mind, but it contains quite a bit of spoilers and is quite short, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. It ties up the saga of Ford's mind quite nicely, though. Up next is the King Censorium, which may be the best world in the game. We gotta talk about the art style first. It's so nice and crisp. They went the more cel-shaded approach, and it is just beautiful and distinct. That's to say nothing about the level design, which is so much fun. The level revolves around Raz shining spotlights on these crystals. These crystals will then shoot out rainbows that Raz will be able to walk on. The point of this level is to reunite the band and get their instruments back. Each member will be based on a different sense. It's just so much fun platforming here with all the different sights to see. Raz learns the time bubble here, and this level makes great use of it. Raz can slow down tongues and noses that are whipping the ground, fans that are spinning too fast, or platforms that are spinning too fast so he can actually jump on them. How can it fit the level where Raz can climb a literal booger? In my opinion, this is right up there with the Milkman Conspiracy and Waterloo World. It is just that good. Cassie's collection revolves around a librarian that needs Raz to collect 3 books so she can hide them away. Man, this game really seems to have the rule of 3s, doesn't it? Anyway, Raz learns mental projection here, and this is the world that makes the most use of it, by far. Scaling the library is pretty fun, as it encourages the player to use several psychic powers, such as mental projection, levitation, mental connection, and time bubble. I also love the idea of collecting evidence to take out Fanny Flats. Bob's Bottles is the last world that I want to cover, as the couple of mental worlds beyond this point are chock full of story twists, and even if I go over them, like, slightly, it will give stuff away, so I'm just not going to touch them. This world starts off by placing Raz and Bob on a stranded island. Bob will then ask Raz to gather 3 seeds so he can watch them grow and care for them. Raz is then able to hop into a giant door portal and use it as a boat to sail across the water. There are other stranded islands throughout, some containing characters. These characters aren't themselves, though. They are how Bob views them. That does not sound anything like Lily, damn it.
Bob in years. How does he know what you look like?
My dad sent him pictures for years.
Raz can be transported to different parts of the level by going through these bottles. One section will bring him to a platforming section where these seeds will clear water for him. Another section will take place on a giant wedding cake. Man, this cake looks way too good. There's another portion that has Raz fight enemies in the mother lobe, except it has been overgrown by vines. There's another section where Raz will travel through a kitchen and he can burn all the objects around him. This world is definitely super interesting and diverse. This has to be one of the best ones in the game, no doubt. I love how each person's mind deals with a different issue, whether they're trying to get over a loved one, gain some confidence, having an identity crisis, or deal with whatever problem they're having. Each mind has a unique problem that Raz will try to help them solve. These can all be entered from the collective unconsciousness, which is pretty similar to the first game. Raz will need to know mental connection to get to these doors that will have their respective levels behind them. So, what are some other negatives of Psychonauts 2? Oh god, I'm gonna have to start digging here because I really can't think of much. One annoyance of balancing out the powers is the fact that there are only 4 power slots. I spent a decent amount of time just flipping through the damn powers. At times, there is brutal texture pop-in. I usually complain about this stuff if the game is so bad it deserves it, like Pokemon Sword and Shield for example. I'm picking on it here because I'm really having trouble coming up with other negatives, because this game is so goddamn good. This is most noticeable during conversations where the camera has to pan back and forth between characters. I guess another one is how Figments Are Collected. 100%ing the game is good fun until you account for these damn 1,300 plus Figments. In the original Psychonauts, there was a Figment total for each section of every world. They were also displayed if one didn't have them as a question mark, making Googling them easier once you hit your breaking point. In Psychonauts 2, though, the game skips over Figments if you don't have them, as well as only having one total for the entire world. Bob's Bottles is the worst offender by far. Finding all the grass Figments made me waste at least an hour or two, maybe even 3. I went into all 3 bottles a couple of times each because there are no totals for each of the separate bottles. It turns into a needle in a haystack situation, which can get pretty tiring. Let's take Coach Oleander's mind from the original as an example. There are 3 stages of the obstacle course. These totals were broken up into 3 sections based on the 3 courses, which made getting everything in that stage much easier. The last thing I gotta mention, as I was playing on the Series X version after all, Quick Resume just doesn't like working. It would usually give me a black screen or just boot my ass to the main menu, but now we get shift to the positives. The loading screens are done in a finger snap on the Series X. I'd assume it's the same for the PC version if one has an SSD. There is no waiting done here. Or take Bob's Bottles. Raz can slide down these bottles, which seamlessly turn into new parts of the level. This may also be possible because of the simple character design, which still shines on the newer consoles. It's nice to see these character models redone for a new generation. The animations are also much more fluid. Take Rasputin running on the levitation ball, for example. In the first game, he just kind of did a running motion to it, kind of just swayed his arms back and forth. In this game, though, he flails his arms all over the damn place. It's nice to see their clothes more detailed, reflections hitting their eyes better, the cleaner models in general. The game has a very unique look to it that is pleasing to the eye. I'd argue that overall, this game is easier to 100% than the original overall. Even though I might have bitched about it a little bit above, there's no point of no return this time, which is great. No collectibles are missable, and this game only has 2 missable achievements. Both of these happen pretty early in the game, so starting a new file for these wouldn't be too much of a headache anyway. The reward for it is pretty fun too. When rank 102 is achieved, Raz can use the last of his Intern stars to buy a no cooldown ability. This is under Clairvoyance, but applies to every single psychic ability. Being able to throw down consecutive Cyblast or Pyrokinesis flames is a lot of fun. Bar a few figments of imagination, it's really fun to get there as well. I'm so happy that the point of no return is gone. It removes a lot of unnecessary stress for a true 100% run. Raz can also talk to numerous people after the main story is done, such as his family members, Lily, Sasha, Mia, Hollis, and others. So even if you think you squeezed out everything you could about a Psychonauts 2, you might have missed a few conversations after beating that final boss. Before we end all of this, can we give a huge shout out to Microsoft? The fact that Psychonauts 2 even exists is nothing short of a miracle. The first game was a huge financial failure, and it was the main reason why Majesco, the original game's publisher, stepped out of the video game market altogether. When looking at a viable sequel, what is the first thing that developers or publishers look at? I'll tell you. Sales numbers. Psychonauts didn't exactly do sales numbers the first time around. The budget for Psychonauts 2 came from Fig backers, which Fig itself launched simultaneously with the game's announcement. It raised over $3 million, but wait a minute, where does Microsoft come in again? The original plan was to have Starbreeze Studios publish the game, but they had to file for bankruptcy in 2018. In 2019, Microsoft decided to buy Double Fine straight up, and they had a hands-off approach. They literally let Double Fine do their own thing and told them not to worry about finances. They were about to drop content, but Microsoft gave them the extra money to complete it. They were advertising it pretty decently too. On basically every new advertisement for Game Pass, Psychonauts 2 is at the very least mentioned. Tim Schafer has done a couple of interviews, and he said that he is very thankful for the acquisition. He said that Game Pass is perfect for a weird game like this, because many might not be sure that they would want to spend a full $60 on a game that is super weird and they may not like. With that price barrier gone, now it's just the time commitment. If one doesn't like it, well, they can uninstall it and move on with their lives without dropping that full $60. But what if one loves it? Like me, they'll be like me and just throw down on that full $60 on Steam, even though I played it on Game Pass, because I think that the game deserves it. Microsoft even let the game come out on PS4 and Steam still. Many PlayStation users are being utterly douchey about this game, saying that because it's inferior to the Xbox Series X version, they won't buy it. Like, come on, dude. PlayStation is giving Xbox versions of Uncharted, God of War, Little Big Planet, or The Last of Us. There's an Xbox Series X version, but not a PS5 version, because it's an Xbox Game Studio game, you idiots. I guess they're stupid Sony ponies, though. There's no point in trying to talk to the brainless. Brand loyalty is so dumb, that's for another video. If one is a PlayStation 4 or 5, and they want an amazing platformer, please don't let the fact that it's an inferior version push you away. I heard that it's still an amazing time on those consoles. It's funny how they always point to Metacritic scores when it meets their narrative too. I guess Psychonauts 2 on Xbox One is definitively better than Spider-Man on PS4 or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart on PS5 because they had higher Metacritic score, right? They'll come up with some BS excuse. They always do. Speaking of publishing, there are, unfortunately, no physical copies that can be bought at retail. They were provided for Fig backers only. Man, this game would look so nice on the shelf next to my PS2 Psychonauts copy. Speaking of that, though, isn't it weird that Rhombus of Ruin got a physical copy, even though this game is going to outsell it by, 10 times probably? Lastly, there is no Russian language option. Listen, I get that this game had a small budget, but shit, man, Russian is a major language. Unfortunately, the game has been subject to review bombing because of that fact. At least it's a decent reason, in my opinion. I've seen review bombing for much less. At least game critics are really liking it. I really am hoping to see this masterpiece at least get nominated for Game of the Year. If it wins, I'll go apeshit. That is Psychonauts 2. And it's pure bliss, man. The game is so much goddamn fun. I mean this with no ill will towards the game. But it feels like a PS2 game released modern day. Today, games feel so goddamn soulless, it's insane. Oh look, it's another year. We gotta release a new half-baked Pokemon. Oh look, it's another year. We gotta release another half-baked Call of Duty that'll have expensive DLC. Oh look, it's another year. We gotta release a new Battlefield. Oh my god, it's another year. We gotta release 5 sports games. This takes me back to a time when it seemed like there was passion in AAA gaming. It seemed like making a buck was only part of the priority. The other part of that priority was making art, making a game that could resonate with people, making a game that could be replayed months, years, maybe even decades down the line. If I don't die by then, I can easily see myself playing Psychonauts for the next few decades. As I said before, I beat the original Psychonauts just a few weeks ago, but I'm already hopping into my second playthrough on Steam. I gotta get level 101 this time. That is my argument of why Psychonauts 2 deserves Game of the Year. No ill will toward other games that came out this year, but I think it's no contest. I haven't been this much into a game franchise since Pikmin, Digimon, Super Mario Bros., or Super Smash Bros., my literal favorite childhood series. It's really neat how a game franchise that I barely heard of a few months ago has already cemented itself as one of my favorites. The gameplay is simple fun, the characters are delightfully weird, the story is interesting, the levels are so diverse and unique, the collectibles are so much fun to collect, and they play into the theme of the game so well, the art style so cool. It's just so good, man. I really wasn't expecting this franchise to be this goddamn awesome. Psychonauts 2 gets a full, fat 7 out of 7 from me. This has been my favorite release in Super Mario Odyssey in 2017. In fact, I think it could go neck and neck with Super Mario Odyssey. It's just that good.